Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to Data Link Networks and Datto's presentation on Your SaaS Data is Under Attack. My name is Donald Wisdom. I'm president of Data Link Networks, and we think we're in for a great presentation today that will detail why you want to back up cloud services. And Datto is a longtime partner of Data Link Networks. We're a national managed services provider. And so we're very pleased to introduce today to you Mr. Eric Torres for the presentation. He's the Director of Channel Development for Datto, and he will begin this presentation, and then we'll take questions at the conclusion of the presentation. So Eric, it's all yours. Take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. Turn on my webcam right here. Yes, I am the Director of Channel Development for Datto. I've been with the company coming up on 6 years now. Prior to that, I worked for a company just like Data Link Networks. So I do understand the risks that are associated with all of your data, no matter where that data is living. I know what it's like having these conversations and just educating people on what is happening out there in terms of what we need to stay on top of for the bad guys that are targeting us. So real quick before I begin about the topic today, I do want to touch on Datto ourselves. We are the world's leading provider of MSP delivered IT solutions. What this means is we partner with the experts such as Data Link, and they're the ones that are the experts at designing, building, maintaining these beautiful networks. We're simply one of the tools that they use to make sure that this happens. And we are a global organization. We have data centers and offices all over the globe, but we are headquartered right here in the US on the East Coast. And just for a data protection's sake, we do have bi-coastal data centers. None of your data that resides with Datto leaves the US borders. We've got a data center out east and then one in Salt Lake City. So today we're talking about SaaS protection and the need to back up your SaaS data. And the thought is a lot of people think that because it's in the cloud that it's not as vulnerable, and that's just not the case. And also there's this huge push to push us there, to get us to the cloud. And even right now, more than ever this year, with everybody working from various locations, working from their home and part-time in the office, part-time at home, or 100% working remotely, Microsoft has been pushing us there with their Office 365, the use of Teams. This is something that businesses have been adopting for quite a few years now. And in doing this, it is imperative to understand that SaaS data is still at risk. And there's a number of things that can happen to your data, even though it's living not within your building, not within your walls or on your infrastructure, even though it's living inside of the big companies of the world, the Microsoft, the Googles, the Amazons. There's still a need to protect this data. And I have some stats here about some of these things that we need to think of when it comes to protecting this data. 1 in 3 companies admit to losing SaaS data. So this is data, again, that's living in Microsoft's data center or Google's data centers, but 1 in 3 companies are openly saying, yeah, we accidentally lost data, we maliciously lost data, something happened to our data. 13% of these companies have said data loss is caused by hackers and viruses. And I've got a great example of exactly what we mean by hackers that are targeting the SaaS data that's living out there. But the numbers that are most important in my mind, 47% of data loss is caused by end user deletions. This is something that accidentally happens. We delete a file and then we don't realize it until the standard retention period of Datto or of Microsoft, and I'll explain that a little later on. But there's a standard retention period of the data that's living in these data centers, these server farms. So 47% is the end users accidentally deleting something. Then if you add the 7% that's maliciously deleting things, this comes from internal. This is saying that if you have a loose offboarding plan, if you have a disgruntled employee that leaves, or somebody that catches wind they're about to get let go, typically human nature, the first thing people start to do is go through their emails, start deleting personal emails, start deleting calendar appointments, whatever they were doing to cause the problem in the first place. But there are 7% of these issues that are happening from within of internal people deleting it intentionally. Now, we also know that cyber attacks are going up. And we at Datto, we send out a yearly report, and we do it in a couple different fashions. We survey our existing partners like DataLink, and we also survey small to medium-sized businesses and say, what are you seeing in terms of IT spend, ransomware, cybersecurity, your planning for 2021? So we have a ton of surveys, and we're gathering all this information. One of these surveys that we did recently, it showed us that on average, MSPs, managed service providers, are reporting 5+ attacks against clients per year. Now, that's not saying that these attacks are successful. A lot of them, there are security solutions in place, wonderful security that DataLink provides for you, but they're still attempting these attacks. And that is imperative to know that no matter what business you're in, you could be in education, healthcare, you could be a manufacturing company, you could even be a dog walker, and they are targeting you. That's the thing that we need to understand. They don't care what kind of data you have. They just know that your data is important. And I brought the example of a dog walker. That is a real life example. It was a woman in Ottawa, in Canada. Single person organization, just her. She walks dogs. She's retired, walks dogs as a side gig, and she ended up getting ransomware. It's not that the bad guys wanted the data. They just knew that her schedule, her books of organizing all this was important to her. That's what we need to understand. Now, what we also need to understand from these attacks, both on your on-prem data and on your SaaS data, they often go unreported. As you can see here in this slide, that there is a ton that just goes unreported that we're not aware of. So for every one we're hearing about, there's 4, 5, 6 that we're not hearing about. Then we move into the people that are striking at the most opportune times, and the effect that this whole year 2020 has had on us, where these bad guys are now targeting hospitals, and more specifically, they're targeting teams, because in the first quarter of this year, once the lockdowns first started happening, the use of Microsoft Teams exploded. 44 million daily active users just in Q1. This has only grown since then. We're still waiting for the reports on the final numbers for 2020, but the bad guys are looking at this. And when they see a situation where you have employees that suddenly aren't within the confines of your office building, now they're working from home, opening up potential back doors into a network, the use of new systems, new software, new communication methods to do your daily activities through Teams, they look at that saying, how can I target that? How can I go after this? So they don't leave any stone unturned. They are going after everything, and they have zero morals. And the one that just drives me insane are all the stories I hear about targeting the healthcare industry specifically. And it's happening even if you've read the news last week. The government sent out a warning specifically saying they're coming after hospitals. We're seeing it over and over and over. And because of this, we're seeing ransomware creeping into the cloud, creeping into your cloud infrastructure. If you're a virtual company and you've got your network living in a data center somewhere already, they're taking a keen eye on that and targeting that, but even SaaS data, which is why we're talking today. And the need to protect it and the why of protecting it and how they're attacking this. So I'll walk you through this. So how does that really happen? if I put myself in the shoes of an end user and I'm thinking, okay, we're used to using Office 365, I'm used to my email just living somewhere else. How is that vulnerable? It's always up, it's always running. So aren't they backing it up for us? Well, they are, but they do it in a different manner, and I'll explain. However, the bad guys know this, and they know that that data is out there, and they have a way of infecting that data with ransomware. It's actually, we've dubbed it ransom cloud. It's the same thing as ransomware, where they go and they encrypt your data and hold it for ransom. We've been hearing these stories for years now. They come to you and they say, pay me if you want your data back. And if you pay them, which you shouldn't, if you do pay them, they don't have to give you your data back. They're thieves. There's no honor amongst them at all. So they're not obligated to pay you or to give you your data back. But when it comes to ransomware and Office 365, here's exactly how they do it. And let me paint this scenario for you. So I met a gentleman by the name of Kevin Mitnick. And Kevin Mitnick, if anybody happens to remember this name from eons ago, it was in the 90s, early 90s. But he was one of the first well-known computer hackers, the first one that made it onto the FBI's Most Wanted. And I saw him at an event, and what he did is now he got caught. Well, he ended up getting caught by the FBI for hacking into companies and sharing their data back in the early 90s. And they wanted to make an example out of him, and they sent him to prison. When he was in prison and shortly after he came out, he went to the government saying, look, I'll show you exactly how I'm doing this. I'll show you how to break into a company. I'll teach you how there's back doors that are left open. Long story short, I saw him at a conference, and he showed us a demonstration of how he can break into Microsoft and infect Office 365 accounts with ransomware. And I was able to meet with him. We actually invited him to speak at the Datto Partner Conference last year. But I was able to meet with him and get some of the screenshots. So I'm going to share with you actual screenshots of how a hacker infects Office 365. And it's relatively simple. He did this in under 10 minutes. So he sends an email out. This is an email that goes to your mailbox, goes to every mailbox within your entire company, and it's a phishing email. It has the Microsoft logo in there, says it's from Microsoft Anti-Spam Pro, and it asks you, do you want to update your Anti-Spam Pro? And which one of us end users will look at this and not even think twice? We'll say, yeah, I don't want spam. Let's run that update. And this is purely a phishing email. This is not a legit email from Microsoft, although it looks exactly like one. And then you click accept, and you click the link, and a pop-up comes up and looks exactly like the rest of the Microsoft pop-ups. That's how this is designed. That's how the code is written, to fool you, to make it look exactly like you're used to running a Windows update. And it asks you, do you want to install this update? Another approval. Yep. As soon as you hit accept, across your entire domain, every single mailbox is encrypted. This is an actual encrypted domain here. And you can see who sent the email. You can even see the subject line. So you can see it's communication that you've been having with somebody. What you can't read is the body of the email. It's fully encrypted. And it's not just your email. That's just one small aspect of it. It is your SharePoint Online, anything that you have in OneDrive, any of your files and your folders that are living within Office 365, the exact same thing, completely encrypted, just like that, at a moment's notice. Except there's one email in everybody's mailbox that has this message. This is ransomware, here's how you pay me. These guys are getting very good at what they're doing. I saw Kevin Mitnick deliver this demonstration. It was actually 2 years ago now that I first saw this. And the amount of times this is happening now, and the way that these guys are doing it, and the creativity level of these criminals to lure somebody in, get them to click on that link, and then deploy ransomware right there within Office 365 inside of Microsoft. We actually have a video. This is let me go back. This is Kevin Mitnick himself. And we have a video of him doing exactly this. It is this demonstration where he is walking through exactly what he's doing, how he's doing it, It's about, I think it's 7 minutes long. In 7 minutes, he can get inside of Microsoft's data centers and deploy ransomware on your account. This is how good these bad guys are getting. Now, we also know that by 2022, in 2 short years, 70% of organizations will have suffered some kind of unrecoverable data loss. And it's happening time and time and time again. Even with some of the options that are out there, the backup solutions outside of what DataLink provides, but some of the standard known backup solutions that people are using, there's still potential to lose data specifically to ransomware because some of it just isn't recoverable. And this is not a trend. This is something that's going to continue to go on and on and on, proving the need to have a solid business continuity solution on the on-prem data and a solid solution to back up your Office 365, your SaaS data that's living out there in somebody else's data center. So aside from that, there's another key need for backing up Office 365. And this is the shared responsibility model. So I'll walk you through what this means. And I'm a pictures guy. So this is what my marketing department helped me come up with for this. In terms of Microsoft believes in the shared responsibility model for the data that lives within their data centers. So what this means is they are protecting their data center, what you see on your left-hand side of the screen. Their data center is protected from the natural disasters. They are backing up data to a certain degree, but they're only keeping small amounts of it. And basically what they're saying is, I'm going to make sure my data center is always online. Redundant internet connections, fire suppression, raised floors, everything that goes into building a data center. That's what they're on the hook for. The actual data that lives in the data center, that's where they go to the customer. And they say, we can't guarantee this data. There could be things that happen on your end that prevent us from doing our job on our end, meaning opening the door to the bad guys, or maliciously deleting data, accidentally deleting data. So they go so far as to, even in their licensing agreements, which nobody ever reads their licensing agreements, but if you actually take the time to dig through it, and believe us, Datto has, they actually say, we recommend that you regularly back up your content and data that you store in our services using a third-party application and service. Microsoft is actually telling you, you should really back this up somewhere else. Now, that's not because they can't do it. Microsoft has the technology to do it. They're doing it for you. There's windows that they back it up. It's a 90-day retention policy in most cases. After that 90 days, if you accidentally delete something, it's gone, and it's gone for good. It's permanently deleted. So they do have some backup. They're not doing this because they can't do it. They're doing it because of the shared responsibility model. They don't want to be on the hook. They want you being responsible for that. That's where DataLink comes into play. That's where DataLink can come in and say, okay, I have a way of protecting you if something bad does happen, be it internal, be it ransom cloud, however it happens, we've got a copy of that data. And also in the end user license agreements, Microsoft says they have no liability for the deletion of the data. They protect themselves, as most companies like this do. They say, we're going to take care of our data center. Everything else is on you. We're taking no responsibility. Same thing with G Suite. If you guys are on G Suite as well, I myself am on G Suite. We use that at Datto, and same exact thing. Google is clear regarding their limited recovery. We cannot guarantee that we are going to recover your data. You should be storing this somewhere else. So in listening to that, these are just some of the things that I need to understand to get that messaging out there to say, look, this data is vulnerable. People accidentally delete it. People maliciously delete it. And the data providers, the data storage providers are telling us we should be backing this up. So now, what are your options? One, you could do nothing. You could just go on about your day and do what most companies do. 37% of companies don't take that first step. But I think if you signed up for this webinar, you're already taking that first step. You're saying, I want to learn more about this. And I need to know the risks and know what my options are to protect myself. Two, you could work with the limited recovery that's built into these native platforms, be it 30 days or 90 days retention, and just ask yourself this: if you've ever had to go back to either your provider or your IT department and say, I accidentally deleted a file, can you restore it? Normally, we don't know about accidentally deleting something until we actually need it. And in some cases, that is past the 30-day window. That's past the 90-day window. So you could work with the native recovery methods, but there's also that lack of accountability. It does take time, and trust me, if you've ever had to call Microsoft to restore data, you'll be on the phone for hours. Just getting rerouted to the right places, finding an engineer that can access your data, that can restore your data. Either you or your provider will be on the phone for hours, and in that time, depending on what happens, that's downtime. Be it maybe lost access to a specific file or all of your files, all of your emails, that's downtime, and that costs a ton of money. Your third option, regain control of the third-party solution. That's what we're talking about today. Datto SaaS protection. So this is the reliable, simple, secure backup of SaaS data. So what this is it's automated. A few times a day, we're taking images, snapshots of the data that's living in your G Suite, living within Office 365, and we're storing it in our own data center outside of Microsoft. And we're having it there for safekeeping. All of it is managed by Data Link Networks. Don and his team can restore data, restore entire calendars, mailboxes, entire directories in SharePoint. By the way, we also back up Teams. So everything that you're doing within Teams, which has, as I mentioned, absolutely exploded, there's the communication and the sharing of information within that internally and even externally that you should be backing up as well. So Datto SaaS protection is specifically for G Suite and Office 365 and all the flavors of it. Everything that you can is encompassed within those two solutions are backed up. This is designed to maximize protection against permanent data loss. Datto SaaS protection provides the flexibility. So you have the flexibility and speed of recovering this. I am a sales marketing guy. I'm not an engineer. And I had to go through training on actually restoring data. During my training, it was a half-hour session just on how to restore data from within our SaaS protection line. And it took me about 10 minutes to learn. Not an engineer. It was simply just like you're used to your file structure, log into a portal, drag and drop, bring it right back down in there. That's the speed at which Data Link can recover your files for you. This is an automated 3 times a day daily backup, infinite cloud retention. We keep that data for as long as you'd like. You tell us, you as the customer of Data Link, we work together and we say, look, what do you want the retention to be? You have unlimited storage. So we're basically backing it up and not deleting anything. That's primarily what Datto is doing. One-click restore, either the file or the folder level. Again, the speed at which we can do this, and point-in-time restoration. So I'll paint a picture for you that if you do happen to get ransomware, ransom cloud, if you get ransom cloud and you're locked out of your Office 365 accounts, you can't access the actual data living inside there, what ends up happening is we can restore to a point in time just before the ransomware hit. That's what our solution can do. In the meantime, you have access to all of that data as well. Now, we have to work on the flip side to make sure that the mail is flowing if you're looking to send mail, but you still have access to all of your files, folders, Teams, everything that you need access to through the SaaS protection if something bad does happen. Now, you're able to recover quickly, as I mentioned. Now, one of the other aspects of this is saving data for deprovisioned users and keeping your accounts nice and clean. So if you are in a high turnover industry, or if you have peak seasons where some end users are there for maybe a couple months and then they go, typically what happens is, the way that Microsoft sees this is, if you want to keep that data, you need all those licensing still intact. you need to keep those accounts, because if you blow out one of those licenses, they delete that from their data center. Now, you can download that data. It's a pain. You could go get that data, but this way you can save on this by saving your deprovisioned users, because the data is living somewhere else. You can keep your license counts nice and clean without having to ever worry about that. Go ahead, delete them from Office 365. Your data, all the data, everything they've been doing is already being saved somewhere, was already being saved somewhere else. And as I mentioned, the third aspect is just recovering to a point in time, and that is if indeed you did experience ransom cloud. So there are some key takeaways. The bad, all data is vulnerable. And yes, the things that we're hearing in the news, they're going after the big organizations. We hear about the data breaches at large companies. We're hearing about municipalities and cities getting attacked. We hear about hospitals, and these are just the ones we hear about. What we don't hear about is the company next door, the company down the block, that they had the exact same thing happen. My example of the dog walker, again, these guys do not care what you do. They just know that your data is important to you. So the bad, all data is vulnerable. These bad guys want your data. The good, there are options to protect your environment, to protect your data. And that is through the data SaaS protection, through Data Link Networks. They can come in and make sure that you do have that secure SaaS backup. So what's next? Gather more information and schedule a needs assessment. That is paramount right now. That is what I can't stress this enough. Data links to the experts. They can come in, they can share, they can review what's going on your network, find any loopholes within the SaaS protection line, which we're talking about today, but also your on-prem data, the data that's living on your end users' devices that are at home, that are connecting to the office and saving data on a server. I could spend a whole other hour talking about backing up that kind of data, but schedule that needs assessment. Have them come on in, or even do it remotely. I know days and times right now, but have them take a look at what you've got. Have them source out where they can help, because I guarantee they can help. They can help you stay secure and just make sure that your data is always intact. So Datto SaaS protection, your reliable, simple, secure SaaS backup. This helps prevent or mitigate the risks of end user deletion, malicious deletion, ransom cloud, the things that are still vulnerable that are out there. So with that, I know we went through this fairly quickly. A lot of these webinars that we're doing, we try to get you done within about 45 minutes. Our attention spans, sitting through all these broadcasts, all these webinars, all these virtual meetings that all of us are in. So I know I ended a bit early, but want to thank you for attending. Thank you for spending the afternoon or morning with us here. And again, I can't stress enough, take that first step, reach out to Data Link. They can certainly assist. Now, if any of you have any questions within the GoToWebinar portal here, ask away. There are plenty of resources here behind the scenes that can assist with answering these questions, and it is live, so we can answer it right here for you. And with that, I just want to thank you all for your time. And again, please reach out to Data Link. If anybody wants a copy of the slide deck or wants any other information, my email address, I share it with every presentation that I do. Super easy to remember. It's just ET@Datto, DATTO, ET for Eric Torres. And thank you all for your time. Let's get to some questions that may be coming in.
Eric, this is Don. I'd just like to thank you for the presentation, and also remind the audience that Data Link Networks, we're a Microsoft Gold partner. We can help you with your Office 365 backup issues with Datto. We also can help you manage those Office 365 licenses and manage the overall security of that O365 environment. So we can really tackle it from a very holistic point of view. I would encourage anyone on the webinar, if you've got questions, to please reach out to us at 877-487-3783. That's 877-IT-SERVE. or hit us up on the website, and we'd love to hear your situation and your problems, and we're ready to help.
Sure. And I do see a couple of questions that have come in, so I'll get to some of these. If any of you other attendees are tuning in, and don't be shy, feel free to ask. But you mentioned 2 different data centers. Where exactly are the data centers? Good question. I actually get this all the time. So we have a data center our primary data center is in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So with all of the data solutions, and we have many different data continuity solutions, but Allentown, Pennsylvania, everything gets backed up there as the primary. And then that specific data center is replicated to Salt Lake City. So we strategically place our data centers in different geographic locations within the company. Same thing with our global data centers. Just about every country that we're in globally, we have 2 data centers for that exact same reason. If something bad happens to the East Coast, we've got the data on the West Coast. Next question. How much does it cost? I get that question all the time, every single webinar. It depends. The way this is all priced is it's based on the size of your environment, how many users you're using, and it depends. It varies based on the amount of users you have, and that's where Data Link comes into play. They'll be the ones to give you the quote and tell you exactly, or the agreement, the proposal, to tell you exactly what they can do for you to make sure that they're backing up. Ballpark, a few dollars per user, depending. It all depends. It could be up to $3, $4, $5 per user, but it all depends on the number of users that you have. I see another question here. Yes, the presentation is available. I will be sure that Data Link Networks has a copy of this. Don will get a copy of this presentation from me. And if you want the slide deck or the recording of it, just reach out to the folks at Data Links. Both will be available. And looks like it is it for the questions. Again, thank you all for your time. Don, thank you for having me. And we look forward to it. And hopefully we can put together another webinar soon and teach you some more about some of the risks that are out there and what the bad guys are doing and how to mitigate those risks.
Thank you very much, Eric. Appreciate your time. And to everyone on the call, have a great day, and look forward to speaking with you soon.